Let's talk about Kazakhstan. President of Kazakhstan, current president of Kazakhstan, Tokayev, perhaps for the first time since the transfer of power in the country, he unleashed harsh criticism against his predecessor. It is hard to guess what was the exact reason for such strong statements. Maybe it was the publication of memoirs of Nursultan Nazarbayev, where the first president of Kazakhstan just unveils some power dynamics in the country very slightly. Or maybe the recent private meeting between Nazarbayev and Russian President Vladimir Putin, demonstrating that Nazarbayev, despite the actual defeat of his clan, he is not giving up the fight for the influence in Kazakhstan, and Tokayev obviously doesn't like this. Of course, this is not in Tokayev's interest, who also tries to speak with some respect about the Russian president, and at the same time making some efforts to distance himself from Moscow. What were the accusation? Tokayev essentially accuses Nazarbayev of creating a dual power structure in the country. Because after Nazarbayev stepped down, after transferring presidential powers, Nazarbayev remained a lifelong chairman of the National Security Council of Kazakhstan. And he assumed a title, the leader of the nation, or father of the nation, something like this. And this interaction between the former and current president, this dual power structure, it only changed after the events of January 2022, when Russian forces were introduced into Kazakhstan to support local authorities. And it is very interesting that Tokayev denies that he was seeking help specifically from Russia. He is saying that he turned to the CSTO, and it is abbreviation for Collective Security Treaty Organization, some, homebrew NATO for former Soviet republics. And he turned to them amid the chaos in Kazakhstan regions. However, even in this interview, where the president of Kazakhstan extensively discusses the January events, he provides no evidence that foreign citizens were involved in these events, because it is worth recalling that the CSTO charter implies the deployment of its forces into a member country only in the case of external aggression, not just to suppress local population. And in 2022, there were claims of around 20,000 foreign militants attacking the country. And it seems that today Tokayev forgot about this fantastic figure, 20,000 foreign militants, which never had any factual confirmation. And yet Tokayev continues to speak about foreign intervention. But it is evident that the CSTO forces, predominantly composed of Russian military personnel, they entered a country where there were no foreign soldiers and no foreign mercenaries. And they were essentially opposing the population of Kazakhstan. And paradoxically, the result of the arrival of these Russian forces in Kazakhstan was the end of dual power structure that Tokayev criticized. So after Russian troops under the auspices of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, after they visited Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev lost his status as the father of a nation, and he lost his position as the chairman of the National Security Council of Kazakhstan, and all the powers were transferred to the current president. He became the sole ruler of the country. And yet it is clear that both Tokayev and Nazarbayev still cannot explain what exactly happened those days in Kazakhstan, because it is not evident. Was it truly a popular uprising where population was tired of the lawlessness and the corruption of clans controlling the Kazakhstan practically from the first day of its independence? Or maybe it was a conspiracy by Nazarbayev's close associates and relatives to restore him in his power? Or maybe we were witnessing a skillfully orchestrated Russian provocation in order to strengthen the influence Russian influence in Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries. Or on a broader scale, it is entirely possible that we witness the first act of the annexation of Kazakhstan by the Russian Federation, or maybe just preparation for the partial annexation of this country. And the fact that nothing like this consequently happened, that Kazakhstan was not annexed, it could be explained quite simply, because just remember, Vladimir Putin had a blitzkrieg plan for Ukraine. By February, March in 2022, everything in Kiev should have been settled. And the puppet government, led by former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, should have emerged at that time, in March of 2022. And this government was supposed to guarantee both the annexation of majority of Ukrainian territories, for example, Crimea and some southern part of Ukraine, and also the incorporation of the remaining areas factually under Russian occupation, but yet still formally sovereign, the rest of Ukraine, into a union state with Russia and Belarus. And as for Kazakhstan, it was evidently meant to become part of such a union state as well. And the forces, the CSTO forces that were present on its territory at that time, they could serve as a reinforcement to persuade President Tokayev of the necessity to make the right decision. Or maybe just the presence of these forces in Kazakhstan could serve as a reminder to the Kazakhstani president that he should conduct himself according to the wishes from Russian capital. And we know that the failure of Russian blitzkrieg in Ukraine and the fact that President Vladimir Putin got entangled in the war in our country, it could have adjusted his plans for Kazakhstan, adjusted and modified its plans. And I'm not claiming that Putin has abandoned these plans, because the annexation of Kazakhstan and the elimination of its sovereignty, as well as sovereignty of all other former Soviet republics, are still under consideration by the President of the Russian Federation. No matter how much Tokayev or Nazarbayev compliments Putin, his opinion that the presidents of Kazakhstan, the president of Ukraine or Belarus, they are all heading, from his point of view, pseudo-states. And this point of view will not change. And right now, Vladimir Putin simply does not have the capability to engage in annexation of Kazakhstan or part of the Kazakhstan. And I hope he never will. I genuinely hope that the outcome of Russia's war against Ukraine will be a definitive collapse of Russian Federation's imperial ambitions in the post-Soviet space. And in this case, we may never fully understand the significance of the January 2022 events in Kazakhstan, and we'll have to be content with the intermediate result, actual overthrow of Nursultan Nazarbayev. And the outcome of this overthrow has provided Tokayev with the opportunity to openly criticize his predecessor, which seemed entirely impossible in 2022. Thank you for watching, have a nice day, and Slava Ukraini!